One of the things I've always said about Jet Age French aviation is that they've usually had very realistic appraisals of current and future technology and capabilities. Even as the Mirage 2000 was entering initial service and was cutting edge for its time, they correctly predicted that a fair number of advancements were right on the cusp of being ready going into the 1980s. They started planning to acquire a new fighter once some of those advancements would be ready, and entered into a partnership with Germany and England to develop a new European combat aircraft. Eventually, diverging requirements caused the partnership to fall apart, but a new program for a future European fighter was started as another international effort in 1983 that would eventually lead to the Eurofighter Typhoon. Unsurprisingly, there was a lot of drama with that partnership, and France withdrew from the project fairly quickly, mostly over differing operational requirements and a desire to maintain their domestic aviation industry. Dassault Aviation used some earlier design studies as the basis of a new fighter, called the Rafale, and the development was very fast thanks to some of the work already having been done, with the new Rafale prototype taking to the air in 1986, breaking Mach 1 on its first flight. The prototype served more as a technology demonstrator to help iron out a lot of the new systems, and despite how quickly it was built, it took much longer to refine it into an operational fighter and work out all of the issues. After years of testing, modifications, and upgrades, Rafale M finally entered regular military service with the French Navy in 2001. The new jet was loaded with cutting-edge features, including an electro-optical targeting system, a fully modular combat computer, an integrated defensive suite including electronic and physical countermeasures, a passive or active electronically scanned array radar, depending on version, and compatibility with fully modern external weapons. Rafale currently flies for half a dozen countries, with several more in various stages of purchase negotiations. What we get in War Thunder is the Rafale C F3-R, a jet fighter in Rank 8 of the French tech tree at battle rating 14.0 for air, 12.7 for ground. This jet gets a full ballistics computer and EEGS, an integrated optical targeting system, and a radar warning receiver that tracks E through J bands with really good performance. It also includes a laser warning receiver and missile approach warning system, but as always, I recommend turning the MAWS off so it doesn't waste all of your countermeasures on one long-range missile. The radar is the Thales RBE-2 AESA. This is an active electronically scanned array radar set, but unfortunately, some of the advanced functionality is not yet modeled in the game as of making this review. Still, it's got multiple look-down modes, helmet targeting, very accurate tracking, and an IRST unit. For loadouts, the Rafale can take up to 8 air-to-air missiles, dumb bombs, drop tanks, a targeting pod, and a healthy selection of guided munitions. Your basic dogfight missile is the R550 Magic II. This is a high-performance, all-aspect infrared missile with infrared countermeasures, and it's still mostly competitive up at the top tier. Your radar missile is the Mica EM. This thing is an absolute monster in air combat. It has active radar homing, 50G maneuvering, and thrust vectoring. It isn't as good as the AMRAAMs out at longer ranges for a few reasons, but under 15 kilometers or so, the Mica gets really hungry, and it can even perform insane high off-bore sight shots like the R-73. For air-to-ground ordnance, the Rafale can take a few flavors of laser-guided bombs. The GBU-24s have the largest warhead, but the GBU-49s can drop in satellite or laser mode and have inertial guidance. Your top-line air-to-ground weapon is going to be the AASM-250 Hammer, which comes in 3 different versions, with either satellite, infrared, or laser guidance. It's kind of debatable how to classify this, but it's a rocket-boosted bomb that flies out and then drops on its target from above. Some are going to want to classify this as a missile, some are going to want to say it's just a bomb with a booster. But regardless, they're effective weapons with a very long range. The flight performance on the Rafale is really just excellent, with very few caveats. The acceleration is good, not the best, but good, and it's very easy to maintain your speed in this jet. It climbs as well as you'd expect, even with a full weapon load, but here's where the issues kind of begin. It's got a surprisingly low rip speed, and if you get it above around 1500 kilometers an hour at low or even medium altitudes, you're at a very high risk of wing rip trouble, especially if you try and snap into a maneuver. The acceleration curve ramps upwards at a good rate, so you need to carefully manage that airspeed, especially during the opening phase of a match. And when you see the airspeed indicator turn red, you actually need to slow down. If you've got your controls set up for afterburners, this will be a jet that helps on. The agility and dogfight performance are, as of making this review, among the best in the game. It's got excellent high AOA performance, good engine power, quick rolls, and excellent instantaneous control response. Energy bleed in sustained high-angle turns will still be an issue, but it's also an issue for just about everything the Rafale faces, so it kinda balances out. When you take the Rafale out in air battles, you need to be a little bit more tactical than some of the other Rank 8 jets. Despite its outstanding radar set, the Mica missiles do kinda hold it back a bit in high-altitude, long-range BVR jousting, as they don't perform as well as the AMRAAMs do at longer ranges out past 25 or 30 kilometers. The Rafale isn't a BVR sniper, it's a dogfighter. Do what you can to get in close and send the Micas. They're better at short-range combat than basically anything else currently in the game, thanks to their thrust vectoring, high delta V, and active radar homing. They're not guaranteed kills up close, but still very strong. A limiting factor is that the automatic mode switching on your radar will occasionally switch itself into infrared search and track while you have a target locked, and they notch you for a second in a dogfight. That'll prevent you from firing a Mica. You can't really prevent this, so if it happens, you need to manually swap modes or relock the target. Be on the lookout for it, and if you're having trouble firing the Micas in a point-blank dogfight, that might be why. The only other real caveat to be aware of, beyond just being a better dogfighter than a BVR fighter, is that the supply of countermeasures tends to run out faster than you might think. It's generally enough for most matches, but you can see in some of the footage that I did still occasionally run out while I was preparing this review. When it comes to ground attack, don't bother in air battles, but in close air support, the Rafale can do fairly well. The AASM 250s are a somewhat unique weapon in that they have very long range and large HE warheads. Some folks are going to prefer the IR-guided version since it's fire and forget, but because of the slow travel time, I personally prefer the laser-guided version, since you can redirect it to a new target mid-flight if needed. Also, use the standard laser-guided trick here. Fire one or two of them off immediately after spawning in, then start a side climb. After you establish your climb, switch back into the targeting pod and look for SPAA to target while your weapons are already in flight, and hopefully, maybe a third of the way to the target area. Visually, the Rafale is a beautiful aircraft, and it's always been one of my personal favorites. The default gray paint job is okay, plus you can unlock a cool airshow skin for it. The 3D model is very well done, and overall, it's just a great jet to have up on your screen. The landing performance is pretty good, thanks mostly to its excellent low-speed agility and good engine power. You can safely drop gear and landing flaps both at about 680 kilometers an hour, but two caveats. It doesn't get a drag chute, and the arrestor hook is currently not functional, so you can't do carrier landings. They might fix that at some point. The cockpit on this jet really sets a new standard. Great visibility, huge MFDs in good locations, IFF markers on the helmet-mounted sight, and useful heads-up display. 10 out of 10 with the VR headset. To close out on the Rafale C F3-R. This jet has very powerful short and medium range air-to-air missiles. It gets an active electronically scanned array radar. It's got extreme agility. It's amazing to fly with a VR headset. And it gets long-range weapons for close air support. However, its missiles aren't the best for long-range BVR jousting, and its acceleration and maximum speed at low level are only average for a Rank 8 jet. The final verdict on the Rafale C is that this jet provides France with a very competitive multi-role jet up at the top tier. Absolutely worth the grind, and as of making this review, it might be my new favorite jet in the entire game. As always, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this review, check out this other one.